It was a little over 3 years ago, and it's a Thursday morning, and I remember it so vividly because my family is in the morning rush. We are flying out the door with our kids. My youngest is 1 at the time, and I'm changing her diaper quick, and my wife was grabbing a onesie out of some clean laundry that hadn't been folded yet. She throws me the onesie, and I remember looking over at my wife, and she slowly lowers to an elbow and tells me, "Devin, I am not feeling good." And as I sort of try and finish up with my youngest, she goes to her back and says, "Devin, I need you." And I come around the corner into the laundry room, and I notice that her eyes are looking past me. They're not connecting with me. And not until I get right close in front of her, in the center of her view, does she even pick up that I'm there. And that's when she realizes that her left field of vision has been cut out. And at the same time, her left side of her body is starting to feel numb and heavy. And for Brooke, being a physical therapist for those in the neuro population, stroke is going through her head. That was not going through my mind. And when she said, "Devin, you need to call an ambulance," I wasn't sure what was happening. And so begins one of the scarier moments of my life, where she gets picked up by an ambulance and off to the hospital, and my kids are being tended to by our neighbors on the front porch, and I get in my truck to follow this ambulance, not knowing what's going on in the ambulance, not knowing if my wife is getting worse, not knowing if she's not able to speak, not knowing if she's gonna make it by the time we get to the hospital. I remember just calling close family and friends and asking them to pray, and being so unsure of our future. And over the next 48 hours, time in the emergency room, time in the intensive care unit, realizing that she cannot walk on her own. Her left hand is not functioning. All the way until we get into the 8th floor of the hospital, where she's stabilized, and we're getting more clear communication that, yes, you experienced a stroke at age 34, sorry. And I remember getting a text from my Uncle Jim, who's also been through some serious medical news and scares. And I wrote it down, and it said, "Devin, don't try to apply God's grace for today into the future. He'll give you what you need when you need it." Because at the time, I found myself living out all of these possible hypotheticals, all these outcomes that haven't even happened yet, all these fears of mine, and they hadn't even happened yet. And I was trying to apply God's provision and his grace and what I needed to get through those moments into the future that hadn't even happened yet. And he was referring to Lamentations chapter 3, and that's our verse for the day. And that is what has continued to impact me to this day, when I find myself trying to live in all the possible outcomes as opposed to live in the actual day that God has given me grace for. I'm going to read out of Lamentations chapter 3, and it's verses 22 through 26, and it says, "Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail." And the word compassions could be switched out with his mercy never fails, or his grace never fails. And here's the beauty of the verse. "They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." His mercy, his grace, his compassions are new every morning. "I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord." And why that scripture was so important, and why my Uncle Jim knew that I needed it in that moment, was that in a valley of life where there was so much unknown, I needed so badly to stay in the day that God had already given me his compassions, his mercy, and his grace for, because he equipped me for that day. And I could get through the ER and the ICU with Brooke and the 9th floor or 8th floor of the hospital, and even the inpatient rehab that was coming where Brooke would relearn how to walk. And if I would just stay in that day, it was true. God gave me what I needed to be a support for Brooke and I to still share laughs, to still share hope, to still pray together. But as soon as I went past that day and into the future and tried to apply God's grace into those unknowns, the reality was that God hadn't given me grace for that yet, or mercies for that yet, to handle that yet, or compassions to handle that yet. Because if those outcomes were in my future, he'd give me what I need for that day. But he doesn't give me grace to apply to future events that haven't even happened. And it's a really good word for me, and I guess it's my word for you today and reminder for you today. As you get your roots into the stream and notice God and give him your attention, you might be living in a lot of hypotheticals and a lot of possible outcomes that you're worried about and are causing anxiousness. The root of anxiousness is living in the things that haven't even happened yet. And so the reminder for the day to plug into the Father is to remember that God has given you what you need for this day. And you can trust him with that. And then you can trust him tomorrow with the things that are going to come tomorrow, because new every morning are his compassions, his grace, and his mercy. And so my encouragement for today, as you get your roots into the stream, is to pray this simple prayer. God, you have given me what I need to make it through the rest of this 24-hour period. And then I can trust you that when I wake up tomorrow, you'll give me what I need for that day and all of the unknowns. Help me to stay exactly where you place me in these relationships, in this environment, and to trust you that you want to live your life through me, and that I can be a conduit of your love, even despite my circumstances today. I hope that's encouraging to you as it has been to me. Look deeper at Lamentations 3 and claim that to be true for you today. Thank you for watching. Share to a friend where it might be helpful. Leave any comments for the things that God has brought you through or is currently bringing you through. I'd love to interact with you on that. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll keep on a weekly basis handing out these bits of encouragement to stay planted by the water and get your roots out to the stream. Thanks. See you next time.